All right, we're
This
going to get
conference
started.
will now
Compliance
be
with the Open
recorded.
Public Meeting Law. I wish to state that on June the 11th, 2021, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, the Upper Township website, and the Town Hall foyer. Mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting, and I would ask all to rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Here. Mr. Corson?
Present.
Ms. Hayes? Here. Mayor Colombo?
Here.
All members are present.
Would someone like to approve the minutes, both May 24th, the 2021 regular and closed session minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any corrections, deletions, omissions that anyone's aware of? All right, hearing none. Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes? Yes. Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. All in favor?
Okay. Scott, do you have anything for us this evening?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, committee members. Just two things this evening. One, I want to report on the new holiday, June 18th. Juneteenth, as it's known, as far as trash collection for that day. The normal Friday trash and recycling route will be collected on Monday, along with Strathmere. And since our last meeting, specifically on June 4th, as we know, Governor Murphy has officially rescinded the COVID-19 public health emergency on that date. There are a few executive orders that still remain, in fact, 14 executive orders to be more specific. And I will be working with Dan Young, our solicitor, to rescind our local emergencies with respect to the governor's.
So getting back to Juneteenth, which is actually Saturday, but they're celebrating the holiday on Friday. Do you think it might be worthwhile to at least put some sort of, I don't want to say code red, but some sort of response out to at least the area that is probably not totally familiar with this holiday. It's the first time the state has incorporated it. And I just really would like to make sure we get that information out to folks.
We can do that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
And that's all.
Okay, I'm surprised you had and so the one thing that I thought was very good and with great anticipation, that Friday's report from the county showed that Upper Township has 0 active cases of COVID. It's the first time I think I've seen that since at least March of 2019. So that's very reassuring. Barbara.
Nothing to report this time, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Daniel.
One item I'd like to bring up at the prior township committee meeting, we had a land sale request. It was by Mr. Scott Bueller. It's block 848, lot 3. In reviewing that, we talked about the fact that we proceed with an appraisal and with our standard conditions that we do when sales of land are on the mainland, which is that you have to deed restrict the property to, I guess, further subdivisions so we don't create another buildable lot. This is a unique situation in that, although I don't know if anyone would have enough land if they bought this and incorporated it into their property to build 2 lots under our ordinance. I did do that analysis. I wondered whether the committee cares because it's Strathmere and we have virtually no students in the school district. So, and that was the basis of creating more residential lots in the mainland because of the propensity of creating school children and school taxes and everybody's taxes go up. So does the township committee want me to draft an ordinance still with that deed restriction and that prohibition against further subdivision, or just a straight land sale to a contiguous owner and they can do whatever they want? if the boards and the planning board sees that it complies with our zoning requirements.
I would say we stick with our old policy. Stay with the same policy.
That's why I'm asking.
I could see this being subdivided and the neighbors.
There's one neighbor, Paul, do you know how large that lot is? Could we create 2 lots out of that?
There would be no way that any of the lots, if they obtained it, would be able to further subdivide to obtain another building lot. But you could see a case where, because this lot kind of goes behind 3 lots and is adjacent to another lot, 4th lot, that they may want to do a lot line realignment.
That was why I asked, because I understand that part of it. We talked about that at the last meeting. So I would have to craft a special clause that allows for that, as long as it doesn't create another buildable lot, which I could do. But in the process of doing that, and talking to the applicant, I explained the reason for the prohibition. And then frankly, I realized that we actually get more tax income by more lots in Strathmere than in the township, in the mainland part of the township. And I wanted to get direction from the township committee as to whether you still want that prohibition in there. If you do, that's fine.
But they could not create another building lot.
If that larger lot behind isn't big enough.
Well, because they don't have 35,000 square feet, because because you still need 35,000 square feet
35
for septic. To subdivide a property for an additional lot that's not already plotted on there
in Strathmere.
in Strathmere.
In the RR district.
That's why you can't really do a subdivision in Strathmere.
Okay.
Is because unless it's already a plotted
Then it's
lot,
So then it's
I was
moved.
aware of that.
It's,
Because the minimum lot size
is 4,000 square feet. However, if the lot is
that's fine.
created larger.
so then you can decrease it.
I'll draft a special clause.
And then we're consistent.
I have nothing further.
Okay. Paul,
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to request permission to attend a conference in October. It's a 3-day, or actually 2.5-day conference. The cost is $325. It's for the New Jersey Floodplain Association. It's their annual conference. It's where I get most of my CFM credits for floodplain manager. I'd like authorization to apply.
when is that?
October 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Is it locally? Like where-
Yeah, over in Atlantic City. I don't stay overnight or anything. I just need the because it's 2.5 days, more than 2 days, and over $250. I need township committee authorization.
Okay.
I guess, did you have a hurricane makeup date?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Sticking to the flood topic, I'd like to announce that on Saturday, July 24th, we're going to hold our second flood insurance promotion meeting over in Strathmere at 9 a.m. at the Strathmere Fire Hall. It's a meeting where we invite anybody within the flood hazard area to stop by. We have a presentation by some local insurance agents. Of special topic I think we'll be discussing this year is risk rating 2.0. I'm sure if anybody's in a flood hazard zone is realizing that they're changing how all flood hazard properties are being rated, and they're calling it a risk rating 2.0. And then it's also an opportunity to discuss and people can bring in their elevation certificates and their flood insurance policies. Meeting with myself, we can review your elevation certificate and make sure that you're getting rated properly and getting the most cost-effective flood insurance. At last year's meeting, we had 2 people save over $200 just by coming in and reviewing their policy and making sure that they're being rated properly. So it's a positive event to kind of promote flood insurance and making sure everybody's getting what they're paying for at that. So that'll be July 24th at 9 a.m. at the Strathmere Fire Hall. And then finally, I just wanted to update the committee on the project down at Beasley Point Park. I've been sending some update photos like every other week to the committee. The parking lot, the pervious paving has been about 95% complete. There's only one small section that's to be completed, and they're hoping to pour the boat ramp on Friday. So we're looking to be in good shape to have, I'll say, a soft opening of that facility for July 4th weekend. I think we're in good shape to be able to open it up. There will be some areas over near the restroom, the pavilion, that area, and some of the site lighting might not be 100%. So there's some, I'll say some of the site amenities might not be fully installed, but we'll be able to open the park in that area for boaters and people to use the beach area come July 4th weekend.
Great.
And that's all I had. See.
Thank you. Barbara,
I have nothing this evening, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you.
Committeeman Coggins.
Nothing specifically this evening, but I would like to pass on to Committeewoman Hayes that I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on the fact that we're having an Independence Day celebration this year.
Good.
So there's a lot of our residents who are very much looking forward to that.
Glad to hear
So that's a lot of pressure.
it. No pressure at all. That's good pressure.
All right. So with that, Committeewoman Hayes.
Thank you for the lead-in, John. So as John said, we're going forward with our 4th of July celebration. This year, we're looking to really go all out. I mean, it's the first celebration we missed on last year. It's really going to be a coming together. So we're looking to incorporate different parts of the township. Our celebration will start at 8 a.m. at our new Beasley's Point Park project. We have a group of gentlemen hobbyists that race model yachts. They're about 4-foot wide yachts that are totally remote controlled from the beach. They operate like full sailboats, which is pretty cool. So they're going to do a demonstration at our first annual model yacht 4th of July regatta. So no pressure, Paul, at all. Then that'll lead into our Strathmere parade, which is organized by the Strathmere residents. They will begin registration at 9 a.m. Judging will be at 10, and the parade will start at 10:30, followed by their award celebration and luncheon at the Deauville Inn. Then we will kick off with our big event at Amanda's Field. So it will start at 1 o'clock. We're going to have vendors. This year, we have waived fees for our vendors to support our local businesses, to try and get everybody to come out and, hopefully be able to make back a little bit of the money that they lost. We're still actively recruiting, but we're doing really well. We have a lot of vendors listed. We will also have a food truck area. We are full in the food truck zone at the moment, but if you're interested, please reach out to myself or Larry Coles to get me on the list in case we have some cancellations. What else? Let's see, our kid zone is going to consist of several inflatable games. We have basketball, skee-ball. We will also have a petting zoo. We're going to have a gamer truck. We're working on getting a dunk tank. And what we plan to do with that is use the sports organizations and any other upper township, specifically nonprofit organizations that would like to take an hour block to use it to raise some funds. The idea is that they would operate it for an hour, and whatever money they make, they get to keep. I know my son and some of his friends would like me to issue a shout out to Coach Wires. So if you're listening, Jimmy, the boys would really like to dunk you in the dunk tank. Then we will go into our nighttime events. We have a group coming out to do a Jedi Training Academy, which is going to be pretty cool. There'll be a limited amount of lightsabers for the kids, so we encourage everybody to bring their own. I think that's going to be pretty cool once it gets dark, and I'll be able to see all of that. And I know in the past we've done like glow bracelets and things like that. Then we will have our color guard, our 21 gun salute, and finally our fireworks celebration. Oh, we'll also have live music beginning at dinner time. I think that's everything for the 4th of July celebration. I think I'll cover it.
It's going to be a busy day.
It is. It's going to be a very busy day. I want to thank our public works department too. They've been so helpful with helping us plan. And Scott was, emergency management, EMS, just really making sure that we're able to do this safely for everyone.
All right. We only need one other thing, and that's for Mother Nature to give us a sunny day. All right. Deputy Mayor Barr.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. Committeeman Coggin. Sorry, Curtis. Committeeman Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to report the parking enforcement, I think, is going well in Strathmere, and they're actually doing the Beasley's Point boat ramp area too. Been a minimal amount of tickets wrote. It hasn't been very crowded yet. I think they are making a presence, and maybe I think the enforcement seems to have corrected a lot of bad behavior. And maybe the painting has helped too. So, then again, I'd like to thank Public Works for getting the painting done in a timely fashion for summer. And I think it worked out well.
Right, and I don't have anything further. We discussed some of the issues, and again, Scott, I think some sort of notification to at least the folks that have Friday trash pickup. Just because of uniqueness, I don't know that we can get the information out quick enough to the folks so that they know that Friday's actually a holiday. Right, so the next item on the agenda is the budget. We are going to postpone that until our auditor is able to attend. It's my understanding he should be here by about 10 after 8, somewhere in there.
Or 8:15.
And at that time, I think we'll take the liberty of moving forward, stopping where we're at, depending on where we are with the resolutions, and then go ahead and talk about the budget. So Barbara, let's get started on the resolutions in the meantime.
Good. Item number 4, honoring Myrtle Louise Young on the occasion of her 100th birthday.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Roll.
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. 5, honoring Donald Rapici on attaining the designation of Eagle Scout.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. 6, honoring James Rapici on attaining the designation of Eagle Scout.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Favor. Item number 7, honoring Matthew Robbins on attaining the designation of Eagle Scout.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 8, honoring Joseph Sharp on attaining the designation of Eagle Scout.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
I just want to say on this Joseph Sharp, his mother is one of our township employees, so that's a good thing.
It's Rhonda. Rhonda. There's, it's good, Rhonda.
Congratulations.
I'm sure it was.
Item number 9, honoring the Cub Scouts of Pac 79, Michael Halliday, Benjamin McCarthy, Nolan Palumbo, Christian Pino, Ryan Lick on attaining the Arrow of Light Award.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo.
Yes. So Nolan Plum was actually my great nephew, not too old to have someone coming in Cub Scouts, believe me.
Well, before you go to the next one, that's going to get tabled. That's the contract with Dr. Powell. We have to have a budget in place for that. But it's going to be tabled to the meeting after.
Skip over that one. Item number 11, the adoption of the 2021 Cape May County, New Jersey Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. Item number 12, authorizing a contract with Anthony Priest for video recording services.
So we're going to think about this.
I know, really, he's sitting over there and we're not so sure. Is everything going all right over there, Anthony?
We get a playback?
Let's check it.
One day in a year.
Yeah, I know. Don't take a break, right? Yeah.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. Item number 13, authorizing the execution of an Njdp TWA1 application statements of consent form regarding 113 West Putnam Avenue, Strathmere at Block 827, Lot 1.
Paul, you want to explain what these are? Because we got a few of them in here just for.
All three of
members of the
them,
audience.
these are standard forms that we have to sign off on. These are people that are applying for TreeWorks approval to replace their septic system and upgrade their septic system. Most of them are always located in Strathmere section of the township. They're here because we have to certify that the proposed project meets all other township ordinances. So typically we look at the application to make sure it meets all zoning code requirements. And I'll just, for the three that are on the agenda this evening, all three do meet the township's zoning requirements as far as setbacks requirements and their permitted use in the zone.
Okay. With that being said, move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Porson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion carried. 14, authorizing the execution of an NJDP TWA1 application statements of consent form regarding 6 East Winthrop Avenue, Strathmere, Block 853, Lot 4.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Porson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
15, authorizing execution of an NJDP TWA1 application statements of consent form regarding 10 East Winthrop Avenue, Strathmere, Block 853, Lot 5.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Porson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. 16, declaration of emergency pursuant to Township Ordinance, Section 7-3.2, in order to provide temporary no parking restrictions during the Upper Township 4th of July celebration event on July 4th, 2021, with a rain date of July 5th, 2021.
Move the resolution, please.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. 17, authorizing the mayor to sign and submit fiscal year 2022 municipal aid grant application for roadway preservation.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Carried. 18, authorizing the mayor to sign and submit an application to the NJDP for dredging of Beasley's Point Park boat ramp and pier pursuant to NJDP rules, and authorizing payment of the application from the 2019 capital bond improvement ordinance.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
19, renewal of alcoholic beverage licenses for the license year 2021.
Before you act on this, this concludes all of our licensing, including the Deauville Inn. This afternoon, we received correspondence and exhibits from Raymond Went. He represents Mark Berger and Victoria Green. This had been scheduled and put on the agenda as a routine renewal of the annual, or the routine annual renewal of the licenses under the state regulations. If a objection to a license renewal is timely received in written form, the township committee should have, is required to have a hearing on that license renewal. The question becomes, is a correspondence in the afternoon of the night that you were going to renew the license, is that timely? You have the right under the regulations to have a hearing on the renewal, regardless of whether or not objections are filed. I didn't go through the correspondence and exhibits thoroughly. It is an objection to the renewal of the license. So the township committee should make a decision as to whether or not you're going to have a hearing. I think you could argue that it is not timely, but that's your discretion.
What was the advertising procedure to advertise for the license?
Advertised by the State Division of Alcohol Beverage Control, and the advertisements start April 1, I think once a week through the end of May, if I'm not mistaken.
And the complaint was received today,
I'm going to see it this afternoon,
this afternoon,
approximately 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Which is really rather late to voice an opposition this late in the stage, correct?
A little late to the dance.
It's an objection renewal.
And what other options are there for hearings?
Well, you would have to table that application, that license application. You could go forward with the others. We did not get an objection. My understanding is the statutory requirements for renewal that the clerk's office has, it meets, all the applications meet those requirements. You would then set a hearing date for the Deauville. It would be on notice to the objector and to the applicant.
What is the time frame for their license?
5 days ahead at least, I believe.
Is your current license going to expire?
Yeah.
The end of June, so how do they operate?
I'm sorry.
How do they operate without a license if it ends in June?
I mean, if we denied it,
No, if we don't,
if you don't
We
act,
never knew it.
We don't renew
if we
before the end
don't
of
renew
they
it,
can apply to the state and get it added in a temporary license, and then the state would do it. And if you don't consider this a timely objection and you move forward and approve the license renewal, they both, the objectors do have the right to apply to the state division of ABC and contest the award of the renewal.
And that would be their recourse.
so it's been advertised for 10 weeks.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I'd make a motion to renew the licenses across the board.
I'll second.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes,
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried, we're all in favor. Item number 20, authorizing the Upper Township Tax Collector to extend the third quarter grace period.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
yes,
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 21, authorizing payment from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund of Upper Township.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
yes,
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Carried. Item number 22, appointing the 2021 Queens and Beach Patrol personnel contingent upon background clearance.
move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes,
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
All right. So I see that Mr. Costello has joined us. And we have finished the resolution. So let's jump back to the 2021 budget. And Leon, welcome. Thank you for running around. Let's see, we probably need to get you a chair. Oh, we have one right here. If you wouldn't mind coming up. All right.
Okay, so tonight, there was a proposed amendment that was made up to use some of the stimulus money. Finally, the state guidelines are out and we're allowed to put this into the budget. So now in the third week in June, we're finishing some of these budgets. In the fourth week of June, we'll be finishing some of these budgets. So they'll finally be over with. In your case, you have available $268,000 and change that you could use to insert into this budget for lost revenue. The proposed amendment that was made up takes the full $260-some thousand and reimburses fund balance for the revenue that you lost during the year 2020. With using that money to replace the revenue that you lost, your fund balance is still $30,000 less than it was last year. That is what's been proposed. And I'm certainly here to field any questions that you might have.
Who, can I ask you to propose this?
This was a combination of John, Barbara, and myself.
if we put that money towards our expenditures this year, will we have a tax increase?
You would still, if you used all $200-some thousand to offset a tax increase, you'd have about 0.4% increase. It won't wipe it all out.
I mean, with the economic times we had last year with our businesses, I don't see how we can, if we have a chance to offset a tax increase, I think we should take it.
Well, it also will leave us very short. Where will our,
Well, that'll still leave us with money that we've taken from our surplus and won't be replaced. So
Correct.
we're actually just kicking the can down the road.
right?
One
In
of next
the event of an emergency, and we had an emergency situation this year, we need to make sure that we have funds sufficient enough to cover us to get through an emergency situation. I realize we got reimbursed for this, but that doesn't always happen for us. And sometimes it takes years. And I really don't want to see ourselves struggling at the end of the year. There's no likelihood, but there's a chance we could have some sort of major storm. We had one last year, plus a tornado. We also are looking at the potential. We want to continue to make sure that we're set from our security from a cyber situation. And we're seeing huge companies having, issues, and they had to pay to release their bonds and stuff. So I'm a little reluctant to do anything that would push us down to a level where we wouldn't have any sufficient funds so that we can continue to maintain the services that we've offered. We had a budget hearing. We had no one question the budget at that point. Everyone was very comfortable with what we had in place. And the reason why it was prolonged was because we were waiting to get the final allotment from the state. And so if we had that at the time, that budget would have passed. So I don't know that personally I'm in favor of relinquishing our surplus at that point.
I agree with John. I think we should put it back into the surplus.
I think that, we've done a phenomenal job in this body to mitigate the impacts on our residents and our businesses through the pandemic. We've waived fees. We've assisted them in expanding their footprints and meet outside dining. We've done everything we can to keep the economic impacts from directly affecting our businesses and our residents. And I think that to, go forward with a tax increase and not use any of that fund to mitigate that at all it's not what the money was sent here for. The money's here for COVID relief. It's here to keep the taxpayers from being severely impacted by it.
Well, putting that in perspective, I don't think that the taxpayers are going to be severely impacted, and here's why. If the average price of a home in Upper Township is approximately $300,000, what that tax increase represents in actual money is about $4.50 a month. So we're not looking at a tremendous drain on families. I think what we are concerned about, though, is, for example, as we go forward with contractual obligations we may have, for example, to our unionized employees, what would a 2% increase every year that we're contractually obligated to do cost us? And if we don't continue to put these tax increases through when they're necessary, are we going to be able to meet that obligation going forward? I look at in 2019, we lost approximately $7 million in rateables. We had a rollover of an additional, I'm sorry, 7 million in rateables. I may have said 1,000. We had an additional rollover of 2 million in 2020. So now we're up to an ongoing $9 million or a $9 million loss of tax rateables. So this is money that we're not going to be able to make up. And again, when we're starting to have to eat into our surplus in order to make ends meet, it would be very much akin to somebody who's employed and overspends and then decides that, well, I'm going to start dipping into my savings account. And at some point, there's nothing there for the emergency, when the car breaks down, when somebody has an illness.
I think it's more akin to someone who's employed and gets laid off. That's really what we're talking about here. This money is revenue that was lost directly from the pandemic. So that is revenue that we should regain, correct? We have to say that it's revenue that we lost specifically because of the pandemic, correct?
No, it's not. It's
rateable.
It's just not the rateable.
So I thought it had to be, the CARES Act funds had to be specifically what was lost from COVID.
That's what this round of stimulus is for.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So it is money that was specifically lost from.
Right, but this is money that we've expended for COVID.
We took it from our surplus to pay for it.
Right.
And we don't, we're hoping we had, again, it was reported we have 0 active cases, but we still need to make sure that we're set in the event that some emergent situation could re-arise. I hope it doesn't. Most of the people are vaccinated. I encourage everyone to continue to get vaccinated. And I hope that the kids can get vaccinated. But, at this point, we really are not totally out of the woods yet. And I think we need to be prepared for that.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, and I see both sides of it. And it's not an easy pill to swallow that way, either way.
There's one more thing that I'd like to point out is Upper Township had for who knows how many years, no tax levy at all. There were zero tax for the town. It was just a school and the county tax. They started one, I don't know, maybe 9 years ago, Rich, I forget how many years ago was it? You've had your, pardon me?
Actually, no, it's probably between probably 9, 10
Right.
years at least.
Now, since that happened, New Jersey has established a cap law, which is 2% on the tax levy. You happen to be stuck with and blessed with, in both cases, a low tax levy. You only have a $4 million tax levy. 2% of that is $80,000. So that means that next year, if we finish where we are right now, you could only raise taxes $80,000 or about 0.4%, 0.5%. But the problem is, how are you going to cover what John had mentioned a few minutes ago? The increases in salaries will be pretty close to 100,000. Healthcare is going to go up. Other expenses are going up. The pensions are going to go up. Where are you going to get the money to cover those in the future? We're up against the wall on the 2% levy cap because our levy is so low compared to $15 million worth of expenditures. We can only spend $80,000 more next year. This has been creeping up on you, and it's at the end of where we can get away with anything other than cutting expenditures. So everything that you give away in tax now is going to come back to haunt you.
That's right.
Do we know when and how much the second round of stimulus money is going to happen?
The stimulus, you have, your allotment's going to be $1,247,335. There are many rules on what that can be spent for. The loss of revenue is a provision we're using right now, and we're maxed out on that loss of revenue provision. So you're going to receive $623,688 this year, $623,688 next year. You have 4 years to spend it. If we have, and we're probably not fully recovered on revenue, we'll probably have a lost revenue again from the base year for 21. So we'll be able to use some more of this again next year. But the rest of the expenditures are going to have to come from other sources. Hopefully, we don't need any more expenses for COVID-related stuff. So that was one of the other things you can use it for. The third thing is for water and sewer extensions. You don't have either one of those. Broadband, you do, you can use that for that. Drainage is an issue that it can be used for. I know you have drainage issues in several places that you definitely could use that money for. So this is probably the last time we're going to use it for lost revenue to make back our fund balance. Maybe you'll have a minimal amount next year. We hope we have a minimal amount because we hope that the year is better than it was in 20.
What are we including in that lost revenue? Is it work costs?
It's everything, all general revenues is what the federal guideline formulas are. You're bound by what the federal law was. It was the March 12th, 2021 Act. Which again, don't use CARES. CARES was another one. That was the one before. This is the stimulus that was from March 12th of 2021.
So what's the first order of operation to see if there's a motion to approve the resolution?
First, you need a motion to introduce the resolution.
Okay.
And then second, and then discussion, and then a vote.
This is for the amendment. Item
For the
1.
amendment, correct. Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce the resolution to amend the 2021 budget.
Second.
Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
No.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2021 budget.
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Well, debate, yes, with an explanation. I think we have a good budget. I think it was well planned, well thought out. I do wish we could have provided tax relief, but I understand both sides of the issue. It's probably the best thing for the future.
Ms. Hayes?
I'm going to agree with Curtis. I know that, we did tighten our belts an awful lot. I would have liked to see us apply some of that relief funds to decreasing any increase. So I will vote yes with that.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried, all in favor. Actually,
And what about number 3?
What about number 3, Leon?
The local exam.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the local unit budget examination.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried, all in favor.
Anything further we need to know, Leon?
No, your budget's complete now. And at this time, since this is your last one, I would like to personally thank you for all that you've done with me. I mean, every meeting I come to, I walk in the door, Leon's here, let's get him done and get him out of here. It's a courtesy I don't get anywhere else. I can tell you that right now. You take care of the professionals, that's the way it should be. And I wish a lot of people would watch your meetings and see how it's done. But I thank you very much for that courtesy that you've always provided. And pleasure working with you and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leon.
You know what, Leon? Over 20 years we've been working together, right?
Mhm.
And, we have always had a very secure and very, very trimmed down budget.
Yes, you have.
You've always guided us. And in fact, I think you made a statement that, we could have potentially raised our tax budget revenue. This was about, 6 or 7 or 8 years ago when we had a chance of raising it one time at 6 or 8% or whatever, just
Before
that would
this
put us in a
new
better
law came in,
position, and we didn't do it. And that's why it's important for folks to understand that, this budget is very lean, and, a little tilt either way, and we could find ourselves in some difficulty. So I appreciate all that you've done and the guidance. I know that you've worked closely with Barbara, Ludi, and John in crafting the budget. So thank you for all your efforts with that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leon.
Thanks,
Leon.
everyone. Send everything out to you. Okay.
Good night.
Item number 10 on the agenda.
Yes.
Go back to that.
Yes.
Authorizing the award of a professional services contract with Dr. Stewart C. Farrell of the Coastal Research Center at the Stockton University for shoreline monitoring and consulting services for beach-related issues.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving down to new business. Item number 23. Laura Denler requests to donate a memorial bench for Strathmere.
So Paul, do you want to just discuss this? I know that they were looking at, I believe it was Taylor and Commonwealth, or what was the street? And then there was a formal request whether or not it could be placed on the walkway on the dune.
I didn't review it. I mean, I know that they were looking to place the bench. I think we need to look at where. But I think it's before, the committee's looking to accept the donation. We've had requests in the past, and we have done some memorial benches there and other locations at the past. I know Craig has a standard bench that they like to use in some of our parks. We also have a different bench that we're using at the in the county grant project. The county open space, if you remember, has a style of bench, but that's not really set up for, I'll say, memorial bench plaquing, so to speak.
So I think some of the questions that I recall from the request was, can we order the bench? Will we order the plaque? And then they reimburse us, or are we, and that's typically, I thought, is what we
Typically,
do.
I mean,
So
we've
we have
done that
consistency.
in the past. Just because a lot of times the vendors that we deal with to get our materials, they're not as easy to deal with for the public to deal with them, I would say.
And I would suggest that you work with these folks, because I think that the location is significant as to why they want to have this memorial bench, because the relative utilize that area quite a bit. It's kind of what I read into the
That's common in a lot
email.
of the shore towns, aren't they? Like the boardwalks, see how it's got a little promenade?
Yeah, I mean, we
They have
have
it in public spaces.
benches. There's one at the lifeguard station, and there's several other locations.
At Webster Avenue.
Right.
So, I mean, I think we'll have to, I think if you're okay with myself and Craig, we can work with the resident to find that, good location that works both from a public standpoint, and, we'll work with her to what memorial wording sheet that they're looking for on the plaque, and then, we'll let her know what the costs are and move from there.
Okay, so would you need a motion for us to go accept it?
You can motion to proceed, but I think it should be subject to a formal resolution placed before the committee, because the benches wear out. There may be instances where you have to move it. It should be recorded somewhere that those are conditions of accepting the donation, and they understand it. Some towns where they get a lot of requests, they actually have an ordinance that says this is what we do. We get one request every 5 years, maybe at the best. So we usually just memorialize it in a resolution so everyone knows what the conditions are.
And what would you like now? A motion to move forward with the resolution? All
Motion to move forward and present the proper resolution.
right, would someone like to make that motion?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Carried. Item number 23, Rutger Chase, donation of the beach surf chair to Upper Township. This just, we would need a motion to accept.
I'd like to make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 25, under unfinished business, Anthony Jackson request for speed hump on Stagecoach Road in the vicinity of 1526 Stagecoach Road.
Is this the same one, Paul?
It is the same one. If you recall, I think it was back in April, we discussed this matter. I presented the committee the speed study report that we'd done. I believe the 85th percentile speed, it's a 35-mile-an-hour road. The 85th percentile speed, I believe, was like 44, 42. The average speed was right around or just above the posted speed. So it didn't, for the criteria we normally looked at, it doesn't really warrant, really looking at speed humps. If the committee was going to look at speed humps, you'd probably need 3 to 4 in that stretch of Stagecoach Road. The committee had asked me to look at what would be the cost of those radar, speed warning signs that they put out there that are solar powered. In talking to the county, they budget approximately $12,000 to install them by the time you put the foundation, the post, and the radar unit that has the solar charger on it. They budget around $12,000 per unit. The county has installed several in Upper Township. I think we have like 3, maybe 4.
Yeah, there's one on Tuckahoe Road heading.
So, I mean, we do have them, but, I think, Mary, you had looked at, maybe that was an alternative, to putting in the speed humps, is just to put up some additional advisory type of a signage. But it'd be in the $12,000 range for a single. So if you're to put one in both directions, so you're looking at $24,000. And obviously at that budget cost, it's not appropriated for in the budget. So, you'd be looking at, either repurposing one of our existing bonds in one of those items, or looking at a future bond item in, whether we just include it in the road paving project in a future bond or something like that in the future.
Is there any way we could probably get the Woodbine Barracks to do some enforcement out there?
We did pass, I believe, Scott forwarded that.
And traditionally, we find out that the people in the neighborhood speeding and live in the neighborhood. That's correct.
Unfortunately, that is one of our, I'll say, because it continues on from Stagecoach, which is a county road, that's a collector road. So, atypically, that probably has a little more traffic that's not people living on the street. So because you've got people traveling, getting off 9 to travel parallel to 9 north and south. So.
And in addition to this area, there's only housing on one side of the roadway.
And that's one section where Mr. Jackson lives. There's a drainage impoundment and wetlands area on the one side. So there's only housing on one side. I think Mr. Jackson also questioned in his last correspondence, why is it 35 mile an hour? If the community recalls, years ago, back in the early 90s, that all the Stagecoach Road was posted at 25. It was challenged in court, and both the agencies, both the township and the county, had to submit proper speed study to determine what the proper speed was. And when the county and the township did their studies, 35 was the lowest speed that it could be made under the regulations.
Yeah, because I think one of the, and again, this is going way back, but I think one of the issues was that, as you say, it was challenged. People were being issued tickets and they were being thrown out in court because it couldn't be enforced.
Correct. So that's why it's posted, just to have it on record, that's why it's posted at 35. That's what the requirements are under the statute.
Well, in the section that is owned by Upper Township,
Which is Hope Course and
which is of course into Route 9,
to Route 9.
would we be able to change the ordinance for the speed limit there?
Yeah, I did the speed study back in, early 2000, and 35 was the lowest that we could get. It doesn't qualify because it's an arterial road. It doesn't qualify to be a 25 mile an hour road. To be a 25 mile an hour road, you have to have a certain spacing of residences that are closer to the road and the lot frontages of them. So it doesn't, and especially because on that other side of the road where there's no houses because it's all vacant, it definitely in Mr. Jackson's, I'll say, subsection of that road would never qualify under the statute. And when you look at the speed study, which is the other way that you can do an engineering study to lower a speed limit, when we do the 85th percentile speed, the 85th percentile speed was 42. So, at best, usually you're going up to that next speed limit, which would be 45, maybe 40, but you're not going to get down to 25.
Could we go to 30?
Not with an 85th percentile speed of 42. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You have I'll say a 5 mile an hour leeway between those. So you might be able to get it down to 40, but 35 is more justifiable under the statute of the housing proximity as opposed to the speed study criteria.
And you're suggesting that one speed hump wouldn't take care of the problem, that you need multiple
You would
speed
need
humps?
multiple speed humps just because they're just going to, because of it's all a straightaway through there. So they're just going to go over that little one and accelerate.
Well, hitting a speed hump at 35 miles an hour can be
Can be a nice little
pretty
jolt to the
nice
golf.
little
It will, but what happens
Creates a
is
liability for us.
people will slow down for that speed hump, but what they do is they really slow down. So you hear that car really slowing down. They hit the bump at a higher speed because the larger vehicles, I'll say pickup trucks and SUVs, once they learn what speed they can go over that, then they go over it at a higher speed. It makes a loud noise, and then they accelerate at a much higher rate and continue on. So you're really putting the detriment downstream of that speed hump. So that's why you need to have additional speed humps to control the speed in a corridor area like that. So that's why you probably need one about where Mr. Jackson's is. I think, you have a cross street there. You probably need 2 in that first section and then 1 additional after that side street before the curve as you would go around the curve towards the rest of Stagecoach. So 3 would be the minimum. You most likely would need 4. to have effective speed control.
Is Mr. Jackson the only complainant? Are there other neighbors in the area who are, who feel the
That's-
same way?
That was the only complaint. When I was out there, I had several people say that they didn't really need it or felt that it was needed.
And that's also what your speed study showed, correct? That it,
Well, the speed study shows that, most like the speed study is going to show what people feel comfortable driving at.
right.
And so, at 42 miles an hour, as a 85th percentile speed and the average speed being less than 40, most people feel comfortable that way. They know they're not going to be getting a speeding ticket in that, because most police officers aren't going to give you that 5 mile an hour. So you figure 40 is where you feel comfortable driving. And if that's what they're driving at, that's what they feel comfortable. Just because that's the conditions of the road.
Right, I'll make a motion to deny the request at this time.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Person?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. All in favor? Denied request. Item number 26, engineers traffic study for St. Andrews.
Paul?
Different road, similar story, but this is a different type of road. This is a local road directly connecting up to a school. So I think that, you have a different, maybe a criteria that you might want to apply to this road. When we did the speed study, the 85th percentile speeds were 29 and 31 miles an hour. So when you look at that, it's really, for 25 mile an hour versus road, to have the 85th percentile speed be, within that 5 miles of the posted speed, I felt that that was pretty good. The average speed was 24 miles an hour. So actually the average speed of most of the drivers was actually under the posted speed limit. Only about 5.8% of the vehicles that traveled the road were speeding above, that 25 mile an hour speed limit. So,
What was the highest speed you reported?
53 miles an hour. So, you're always going to get the outliers. Typically what you see is the higher speeds are usually later in the evening. Like when we did the speed study on Stagecoach Road, not in Mr. Jackson's area, but in other areas on Stagecoach Road, we were getting a 90 mile an hour speed limit, but that was at like 1 a.m. in the morning. So, sometimes, you get some kids that go out at night and try to, see what they can do on a straightaway street. But here, this is a neighborhood street going up, it is a well-traveled corridor from going from Shore Road up to the school. So you got a lot of parents that are driving that road to drop off their children and pick their children up. So it is a heavily traveled road for one of the local roads in that neighborhood. But, it does appear that they are, we have the average speed limit below the posted speed limit.
Now, is that average based on certain times of the day? Or is that a culmination of the entire day?
That's the culmination of, we had the speed study out from May 18th to May 31st. So I was trying to make sure that we got the speed study done while school was in session. And it was over the Memorial Day holiday week, so it's kind of that
Picked
week.
up buses and all that?
It picked up the buses, it picked up everything. So
How were the buses speed limits? Just,
it doesn't,
okay,
it doesn't pull out what the large truck
just curious.
speed is on that one.
Well,
So
that at least makes me feel a little bit comfortable that you also included Memorial Day weekend, because even though it was a rainy Memorial Day weekend, we didn't have the traffic we normally have. People do have a tendency, at least I see it, where they're trying to avoid Roosevelt in any way they can. And sometimes St. Andrews and some of those streets that surround there are hit with some significant out-of-towners trying to avoid Roosevelt Boulevard somehow. And they only cause more bottleneck in the township when they do that. But I would have great concern in the summertime, if someone, were to go speeding in there that A, wasn't familiar with the area, and B, had no respect for the residents that live on that
I
street.
could definitely put the traffic counter out again in the summertime to kind of get
Yeah, I think.
what the summer traffic
Yeah,
looks like.
I
would be a
think
good
that would
analysis.
be a wise thing to do. Because the weather was not cooperative
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend, I don't think we saw the traffic that might normally occur there. Now, I get it, the school's not in
school-
session, but I do think rather than maybe take a vote on this, I think it might make sense to delay this and just get, one more study, whether it's like maybe weekend to weekend and see how that compares to what you have
Sure.
before we make a final decision. I don't know if anybody's comfortable with that
I agree
idea.
with that. Paul, I would ask if you could gather some like statistics on accidents on that road, because I think that's how this was brought to us to begin with.
Yeah, well, actually, I think most of the accidents that I think the residents reported were probably were not on St. Andrew, but were actually out on Shore Road.
Okay.
Like when they talked about accidents, and
Right, they were
I
saying
think
they're.
they were more talking about Shore Road, which is a DOT roadway, not accident, so,
Not
I
actually.
mean, I can find out what the accident data is on St. Andrews, but my guess is it's going to be very, very low on St. Andrews, but the accidents you're going to see are on Shore Road along the three St.
Right,
Streets,
right. I
St. Martin, St. Andrews.
That's what their concern was, how it was brought to the committee, so I think it's important to have a look at that.
And one other question, how does the proposed county change for that stagecoach area, will that have any positive effect on?
That's that's up at the St. Martin
Right.
intersection, so I don't know if it's going to have a large impact on St. Andrew.
Or could it create a negative impact because they're not gonna be able to go down the one street versus the other?
They'll still be able to go down St. Martin.
But it'll be harder to make that turn, right?
No,
They
because
come
you'll
up,
be
they
actually-
come up Stagecoach and they're not gonna have that crossover
Right, but you would
onto
never,
Tuckahoe.
right, but you would never get to St. Andrews anyway. And it actually will align better so that you'll be able to turn and go straighter across to Glory Road. So I think
It's
that
actually, all said and done, it'll probably be safer.
it'll be
Okay.
safer. And also the alignment of Glory Road and St. Martin will be kind of more perpendicular to each other and to Old Tucker Road. So it'll be safer.
And do we know when that's going to be done?
I do not. I know that it was going to be coming out, so I would anticipate over the next 12 months that project will occur.
So how would you like us to handle this? I mean, it's on discussion. Can we
You're going to ask.
re-agendize it?
A motion to request a study.
I would say the second meeting in July, I'll be able to get some good data.
So you
Summer
want a
data.
motion to continue with the,
Just a voice motion, you don't need a resolution.
so I'll make a motion that we delay any decision and ask for you to continue with another study. And I would ask that you encompass like 2 weekends. So go like a Friday to Monday, the week after, that kind of thing.
Did we reach out to the complainant to tell them what we found?
I don't know if we had contact information for them.
We should have, it was through a meeting, so.
We will.
So is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Favor?
All right, would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Carried.
There are a number of reports from our municipal departments: Animal Control, Clerk's Office, Construction Code, Finance Office, Municipal Court, MUA Report, Public Works, and Tax Collector. All these reports will be available upon request of the Clerk's Office. However, I'll make a motion to accept these reports.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
All right, and if there is there any other information from committee or staff at this point? If not, I'm going to open it up to the public. All right, so at this time, we're going to open up for public comment. I would ask that you come up to the podium, state your name, your address, and your reason for addressing the township committee. Who would like to go first?
Good evening, Mayor Palumbo, members of the committee. My name is Ray Wentz.
Ready, I represent Dr. Mark Berger and Victoria Brown. Those are 2 West Windfall Avenue in Strathmere. Your solicitor, Mr. Young, explained that I submitted a request, objection to the Strathmere license renewal for the liquor license. This was brought to my attention rather late, hence the submission. It pertained primarily to deal with the zoning aspects and police aspects of the bill. I will periphery the EDC or liquor license issues, so we not go long. So hence my late submission. While I disagree with the decision, I respect it. So let me just explain the process. While I'm here, I submitted a rather to zoning officer Shoreline, which I understand is being handled by the strategic panel. It's about, I think, 4 or 5 pages in sentence spaced. It almost mirrors the report that your professional planner issued less than a month ago. And it's not going away. We want the Doe bill operating. That's why we are here. While we don't have a formal request to revoke the liquor license of the bill, I just want to put on record that the statute, ADC statute 5 in the SC 3.1-31, any license, whether issued by the director, EDC, or any other issuing authority, the township, may be suspended or revoked by the director or that issuing authority, the township. For any following reasons, subsection B, distribution of sale of alcoholic beverages in a manner or to an extent not permitted by license or by law. You would request subsection H, any violation of any ordinance, resolution, regulation, or any other issue of the authority or governing body or board. We have a plethora of ordinances and violations that we have issued on this issue is handled. It's spoken and it is in the process. But make no mistake, no bill needs to be addressed. I understand popular, understand revenue generator. I know that's where every public official goes when there's an event, and I get it. I'm a solicitor for the public. I get it. But it's got to be addressed. The township is in a place on notice of severe violations of its laws. God forbid, after the imprisonment, there's something happens. Please be respectful with us and have limit on those. I know you will also remove the please listen to us so that the bill can continue to operate. And that the neighbors can enjoy living where they live. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you very much. Hopefully we won't be back, but it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the township committee? Yes.
You know, the issue with the Doe and the new owners, everybody was sad. It's going to be a good thing. It would be run better. It would be an asset. But the owners of the Doe have been aggressive, stepping out in every area of the problem. You know, that's my primary concern, and I think that a lot of neighbors. It's going to be advancing with it. This has been every year growing a little bit. And there's people in South City to say that they hear. I'm not sure what the solution is for advancing it. But I mean, on the mainland, your commercial areas are next to residential areas. There's buffers, there's trees, this, there's that. Obviously, you can't do that in Strathmere. It doesn't mean it's not a problem. I put something noisy right next to residential area. Nobody's trying to cut the bill. Just looking where to coexist peacefully.
You know, there's also a lot of expensive houses. People who pay a lot of money in taxes, so they have rights to, no one has a right to have business. But those people have a right to come to their homes and be reasonable. And, you know, on the mainland, I know there's some large zones, but not as close to the houses as Strathmere. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm sure somebody has. And if we could sit down and work that, it would be a step. I'm sorry to see that the representation would go a little left. 2 months ago, Curtis said, as Mr. Wentz said, that this issue isn't going away. And, you know, Curtis said to them, come back, voice plan an apartment. We haven't seen or heard any this kind of stuff. You know, the problems with the apartment, it's like there's no limit on it. There's already variances granted for apartment. You would think in a normal circumstance, they would have apartment. And that would translate into how many people you could have on the premises. We're being told that there's, you know, the parking regulations only count for inside. The outside, they can be, and there's no regulation, no provision for parking. You know, if you tie the parking zone out to the head count, then you have a limit to the number of people. I'm going to quote Mr. Corson again. When we had the discussion about marijuana, Corson said, we don't have a police force. We can't regulate. We can't regulate people on the back bay beach with no head count, no parking, unlimited drinks outside. No, there's no upper limit. There has to be an upper limit. I kind of, on the parking, so the bandstand's number one issue. The parking is the second big issue. And the third issue, while it doesn't directly affect me, it's a safety problem. There's a fence on the curb going to the bridge. Send in a request today to see the permit that fence. You know, some years ago we had, there was an ordinance requiring sidewalks. So we have a situation where there's a fence on the curb. There's no sidewalk. So with the fence on the curb on the other side of the street, there's a guardrail. So anybody that parks on the other street, but if you park your car on the road that goes up to the bridge, you have no way of getting off the traffic. You can't go on the curb is not wide enough to walk. So if you get out of your car, you have to walk to one end of the property in the traffic on either side of the street. I mean, the odds are, I'm not saying what's going to happen, but when you're doing something like that, you're just, the odds of a bad accident are raised dramatically. Now, we sit there and have an answer for things, hopefully somebody else does. But like that issue, with the fence on the street, that's a 5-minute resolution. Back the fence up to the proper setback. With sidewalking, just like everybody else in town is required. And yet we've got completely stonewalled. You know, we're here tonight, they're gone. It's like at the planning board meeting, they never speak up. It's like we hear them almost with the noise we're advancing. And then we heard them testify that it's just gonna be 3 pieces dinner. While at the same time, on the same night, there's had on Facebook for a summer concert series on the beach. Now, I mean, come on, a summer concert series on the beach with no limit on headcount, parking that doesn't even meet for the inside, but on the outside. It's a recipe for disaster. And I have one technical question. Back on the 2005 site plan, there was a chart on the front of the site plan with provisions not only for parking inside, there was a calculation for the parking requirement for people outside. That went away, that changed. That law had changed between that 2005 site plan and now. I'm asking when it got changed and why. I can't believe that the planning board had the intent of letting unlimited headcounts. But that's what that change did. No reason to state it, but I can't believe, that affects all over the township as far as I know. I can't believe the intent is to have unlimited headcounts at any outside. So there are issues here. Please address them. That's all I have.
Okay. Who else would like to speak to Township Committee?
I for the definite 2336 medical. I've been hearing a lot of disappointment from when we started going back to in-person meetings. Board of Education has a hybrid model that includes a Zoom option. And I was looking at maybe like
We advertise for an open meeting, Cricket. And these are the meetings that we've had up until COVID for a long time. And I will tell you that it would be very difficult to be having this public comment portion. There are other municipalities that don't even accept public. They let people just talk. There's no answers, there's no responses. We at least try and respond where we think it's appropriate. That would be very difficult to run two different, and we have not been successful in doing it the couple times that we've tried. So at this point, we're going to remain with a public open forum meeting, and that's how the board and zoning board the planning board and zoning board will be handled. And at least this meeting is going to being taped and will be available for those that aren't able to attend this meeting. Anyone else? Mm-hmm.
Across the street from the bill. You was very thankful for the opportunity to give I've been here for a long time, Strathmere. I'm just treated as happy to the rights family and the department, new ownership. And on weekends, I never see anything like this place is totally out of control. I can tell you this every day, that I don't need to tell you that everything that happened. What I would like to do is invite you, Mr. Mayor, or any member of the committee to come to my home on a Saturday or Sunday between 3 o'clock and 8, so you can see for yourself what's going on. I mean, we had instances, we ended up this house, into this, into that, everybody can tell you what's going on. But if you please come to my home, see what's going on here, understand the truth what's going on.
Okay, let's see if we can work that out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm pretty much over in Strathmere on Saturday and Sundays anyway.
Weather dependent, so.
Between 3 and 8?
Certainly at 3 o'clock.
It gets dark by 8 o'clock.
I don't know that I'm ready to be sitting on the beach waiting for the moon to come up, but,
You might see me then.
but yeah, I mean, I think we may be able to work something out that
We
way.
gotta get-
I wanted to check on a couple of things. One is our lifeguards will be full-time next week.
I think the week,
Weekdays.
I think the 19th they start 100%. We just have, we have our final tryout. We had a tryout, we have another tryout because we had 4 openings. Only 3 guards actually tried out. Or 4 tried out the first day and 1 washed out. There's a guard shortage all up and down the coast.
So how many beaches will we have?
The same amount as last year.
No.
I think it's more than
8 or
that.
9. It's 8 or 9.
Yeah.
We've spread, the stands have been spread out.
And then we also have a lifeguard station. Eventually it'll be at Beasley's Point as well.
Yes.
We have a lifeguard stand at Beasley's Point Beach as well. They're a part of the whole squad though.
They're spread out a little different this year because we have a big influx on the southern end of the Strathmere towards Whale Beach. So we moved the stand down there for them. Whale Beach down there.
Close to Hall Court.
There's no cross streets down there.
I think they call it 1,200 Commonwealth.
1,200 or something, 1,200 Commonwealth. I forget. Bill Hanley can give you a list of where they're going to be before you, because I'm not 100% sure. So
Tell you what, Scott, could you ask to have Bill give us the street locations and we'll post that on the township website, please?
And I briefly just like to address the Joe situation. I've attended past year planning board meetings where quite a few neighbors have spoken, and we were told that this was really not for the planning board, that this was for township committee. And as Mr. Kingston mentioned, Mr. Corson said you'll have a chance to talk about this during the hearing for the liquor licenses. So we're learning how that process works. There are a couple of things that are kind of quick fixes. I think one is that right now employees are not allowed to park at 7 o'clock in the morning, park on the bridge approach. Last week had some big K-turn in front of us. If you think about it, if you're parking northbound on Commonwealth, your only way to turn around now is to do a K-turn or pay a bridge toll and go into Ocean City. There's no way to make a turnaround safely. Last year, one of our officers was hit. She had parked for 2 weeks and somebody pulled out. It's a treacherous situation. I'm not sure what the solution is. If we ask the county to take away parking, then the employees will just park in front of residents' homes. And with the influx of renters, with the number of duplexes, with the large homes that are being built, we're losing parking every day. And by the way, on our street, we lost 3 spaces in one season, 2 from construction or construction, and 2 because the parking spaces were judged to be too narrow. So that's before the season even begins. And with the new painting and the restriping, which has been wonderful, we have lost some spaces in town. So parking continues to be an issue and continues to be a safety issue.
you didn't lose any parking spaces because it's proper lining and striping. They weren't there to start with lately.
Right. For instance, in front of our house or between our 2 houses, we could hire on a pit or a Prius.
And there's one of those situations on Vincent as well, because I took a picture of it.
There are 2 on 2 houses plus an house, and so we essentially have lost 3 parking places. And the way that the lines were redone, I realize it's illegal. My point is that we lose parking when we have parking rules, and it will just create higher demand. With the Dodo, and then this is not my first time asking you about this. For instance, they talked about the wooden enclosure that they created over the guardrail, which now serves as a bar. And then they said, oh, sorry, and moved the benches and the seats.
they push and push and push until somebody challenges them, and then they gratuitously take their seats away, which should have been the car show they had a few weekends ago, and the extensive marketing. They had cars parked double, three deep. It was impossible to make a line once a day around. So Mr. Sheridan's home and Mr. Mueller's home were inaccessible when they it goes on and on and on. I believe one neighbor's gate was opened by people who went out to a stock to retrieve beer cans that had flown into the bay. And then they'll say, well, we don't serve alcohol. So we have violations going on. We have rum buckets being passed. We have people from the state parks going through the dunes, crossing that beach approach with double-sided parking to and from the Doe to turn around. So it's going on, and it's like, wait, now we can have post legs for 500 guests. This is not what is capable of being held in that small space. And then finally, the noticing, they don't own the Uncle Bill, so they don't have to notice be more than 200 feet. So for example, when their waterfront expansion project came before the township, which was approved, and then went to the DEP, people within 200 feet of Uncle Bill's did not receive notice because it's a separate entity. And yet when they realized that someone within 200 feet of the Joe Bill, of Uncle Bill's, was on the planning board, then all of a sudden everybody within 200 feet of Uncle Bill's had to be noticed. They play it both ways, what's convenient for them, what protects them, and then have with everybody else. Why weren't people within 200 feet of Uncle Bill's noticed every time they come before the different boards? They continue and continue to disrespect the neighbors, to pretend that this is not going on, and in return, the community does the benefit. The community hosts people from out of town, hosts these massive events, and the marketing is nonstop.
The planning board, I was the one that called out the 200 feet when on Bills, because it should have happened, because they're using, I forget, I think it was 70 parking spots of Uncle Bill's in their formula, which was probably at least a third of their parking, or better. I thought it should have been part of the application. Is it the same ownership? No, because they're owned by different LLCs. That's semantics, and I know. Same ownership, just different word. Well, it didn't apply for the DEP for the permit application for the water bulkheads. I don't sit on the DEP. I have no opportunity to call that out there.
Right, and when I did ask for your support, for the township police support, the answer was, well, that's up to the DEP. Well, guess what? The DEP voted against that.
Yes.
And got their site plan, but the point is that we really need help. We have no police enforcement. We have jitneys that are hired for bachelorette parties, parking in front of people's houses with engines idling, and then they say, well, we don't have jitneys, we're not doing the shuttle. Those are private things. Why are they parked on the bill parking? Why do we have idle in front of someone else's house? I thought we were taking care of the jitney, but they're back. And unless someone calls and complains to the jitney company, yada, 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 we have no protection.
Well, actually, parking enforcement will be able to handle that. Our parking enforcement, it's not there every day, and it is certain times of the day, 6-hour shifts. Right now, we've been running a daytime shift, let them get acclimated with the place, let them figure Strathmere out. A lot of these guys aren't familiar with the town. There is going to be a shift that's going to come in there a couple times, probably from 3 to 8. I don't know what, there's going to be, you're going to see an evening time shifts. So we're not going to advertise when it's going to happen, and we're not going to publicize it, so.
Are you also aware that just now alcohol is becoming serving at 9 a.m.? So you can sit at the Doe from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. all day long. That's new. The carpenters never did that. It was never open for breakfast. That's what breakfast house is for. So there have been massive changes. It's not as if, it's those cranky people. This is people who are suffering and who are not able to enjoy the quality of life that they should be able to enjoy
and it is a public safety risk for anyone traveling in that area of town. Trying to make a loop to get out onto Commonwealth from up beyond the point is treacherous. On my bike, it takes, sometimes it takes 5 minutes to get across the street because there is so much increased traffic and difficulty with the increased number of cars.
It was real nice when that Jeep was parked in the no parking zone every day. Coming off, when you're coming off, there was a Jeep parked there illegal every day. You got a ticket.
Point is that we need your help and we really appreciate the support. It is more difficult to get people here during the work week. It was a lot easier when people could be at home, as you know.
It was easier for us too, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But that, we weren't elected to do that. We were elected to have meetings, and that's why we're going to have them here.
Appreciate it.
I would argue that if it wasn't for COVID, we would never have had Zoom calls. That this is what we have always done, is had the meeting in this hall. And we'll continue to do that.
Mayor, I do have that list. Starting effective June 19th, the protected beaches will be Seacliff, Williams, Webster, Sumner, Putnam, Morris, and 1400. And the emergency response team will be on duty at headquarters starting on June 19th. They will respond from headquarters if needed, 2 hours after the stands close for the day. The actual operation 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday, and 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
I believe all this information will be posted.
Okay, if it's not, please do
It
so.
has to be up, I think it has to be updated.
Okay.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, what was your last name? Excuse me. Sure. Thank you.
I have a question. Is it legal to serve people alcohol in a boat?
I don't know the details of what's going on, but their territory includes their docks and slips for alcohol licensing.
Always, and it always has. Even the prior ownership had the slips, so it's nothing new from when last year. It's within their liquor license approval area.
Bar or restaurant, even though they own the parking lot. So,
Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
It's Tom Burrow, Howard Court Township. And I just want to, basic definition for zoning is that one element doesn't change or damage the character of the community. That they maintain some continuity and amendments so that each enhances the other. And I can reference here back to having the temporarily reside on the Coast Guard Station in 1962 because both family homes were destroyed in the March storm at 11th and Landis and before that, as a child, I've seen Strathmere change over the year. I'm not against change. I'm progressive, and the one thing that's constant in our lives is change. How, when you talk about changing the character of a community, the parking situation, the noise, there are 30, 40 foot boats pull up with their foot boxes, the bandstand noise from the dock. I remember it was a dive. It was nice tour, and probably, hopefully some of you do too, back when it was a real dump, back in the 60s, and until the Carpenter family took it over in 79. And I'm not here to go into the history, but the point is, once again, and I'm trying to stress, is the character of the community. This is a single resident community. Got along well with Twisties, got along well after 79, and whoever has come in and gone. But this is overwhelming. And I can say, you go there on any holidays coming up, you go there. And if you can't see the impact negatively to the character of the community in Strathmere, that's where I'm coming from. The community is a good community. It deserves to maintain its character in balance with business opportunities. I'm not against making a buck. But when you make a buck, to try and make it, this isn't the inlet of Atlantic City. This isn't the half farthing marina to go with nothing. It's not wild. It's not sea island. You all know that. But the impact, the way this has grown is like playing a monopoly game in boardwalk. The whole situation on the board and crowding everybody out to the point where I might go across that bridge at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's no cars in that parking lot. All the employees are made to park on the shoulder of the latest avenue, the Ocean Drive, going up to the bridge. Now, obviously, okay, that's a profit motive, I assume. We want to keep that so we can have people parking. Does that impact the community? Absolutely. You really have to slow down almost to 5 miles/hour or less. And at nighttime, it's very difficult. People open the doors. That is a safety hazard. Aside from that, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Stewart, 117, on the corner of Lord and David. First of all, I thank Public Works for this parking situation. Good to see him around. A couple things that I want to say is something wear me out. It's like a full-time job. Parking in front of my house. Tested against my house, excuse me. Fighting. I think buses, a full-on work bus, pulls out, and the wheeler backs out through the stop sign, sitting in front of my house. So, and then it pulls out, Kay turns back up, walks, Bill's house, who lives across the street from me. I mean, it's a joke. It's ridiculous. The little jitneys, they cut out with, a bunch of people on, say, Girls Union, whatever. They go up, slam the music. They're not speaking the music. They stop, they got a whole parking lot that they can turn around. Don't use it. It's just, where is it? You just let them go. See how it comes out of it. Everybody playing traffic in the whole week for the city. Somewhat, lived there for 25 years and moved there, worked at 20 places. It's okay. But there's a lot of issues. And, you don't get that any kind of respect for anyone that lives there. Like, outside speakers. People are wrong. Leave the speakers on. Sometimes the speakers are on 12:30 at night. People smoking outside on the deck. Nobody in the car. There's people out smoking on the outside deck. At 3 in the morning. Facing my house. No security. Fights. parking lot. Okay? Screaming kids. No security sign, usually they just fight. One guy yells at him. It's pretty bad. Just leave it to somebody screaming.
Do you know what time they close?
Honestly, leaves the speakers on. It's almost as loud as normal hours.
I mean, I'm not taking sides here. I'm just trying to get as much information as possible. So it's, and then after that, like, because you had mentioned that there were people that were smoking and hanging out and doing, are they customers, do you know? Or are they workers? Yeah.
I mean, they're out there. Assuming they're customers, they're going to smoke.
Okay. So I have security, I'll put busing, but includes the jitneys, parking, smoking after hours, and drinking. Okay. I mean, I've been writing down what everybody's saying, so I just want to make sure I got everything.
We were hoping to have in the first place.
Hold it. We're taping it, so you can't just speak out loud. We have to get you to the podium.
I believe she said the website says you're open to 11.
Okay, 11 o'clock.
Council with our committee's attention to an incident that happened also on Sunday the 6th. We were going about the beach in township. One of the younger kids in our group got stopped there. Before we were even able to see it, assuming it was one of the senior guards at that time, it was actually easy to see it. If you thank that for us, I don't know how to name. Just to see that interact with the children up here, it's really amazing thing to see. That's a positive thing going forward here. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mark, what street was that on?
Wait.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry, I just need can you spell your last name? Okay.
I've reached out to the agency several times to find out how to get to see it, 'cause I'm sure there's a lot of information. And so what I'm asking is that available?
The copy of what the license is?
The license.
Oh, you're talking about the site plan.
No, it's not site plan. Yes.
It's not the site plan from the planning board. However, in the license application and the approvals, there is a
Right,
sketch
right.
attached that shows the license area. And that's what you're looking for. Yeah, you can contact and get an open request to the clerk's office and they can get you a copy of that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anyone else? Now it's time to tell us.
All right. Appears that we have reached the end of those that would like to come before the Township Committee with their comments. So at this time, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and ask Mr. Coggins to read a statement so that we can go into executive session.
Hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Contract negotiation for conflict engineer. Litigation, estate of Zajac versus Upper Township. Litigation, Township of Upper versus Whippoorwill Campground. Litigation, Polk versus Upper Township Zoning Board of Adjustment. Litigation, Hemby versus Upper Township. Litigation, EEOC complaint. Potential litigation, zoning permit denials. Personnel. I also include in my motion the estimated time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes. Normally I'd say have a great evening and drive safely, but the house is cleared out.
So.
Do we have the